Evening, good evening. I am Camille Jones of CEJ Images. We are on chitchatradio410.com. We are streaming across your streaming networks. Chit Chat Radio 410. It is time for Logical Wellness. IG, good evening. Shan Marie, good to see you again, love. Thank you, y'all, for being on. Thank you for being on because it is so important. It's so important that we keep talking and waking up to what is happening. And I was really hoping today, I was really hoping today this would be a good Wednesday. Like we could just, have a good conversation about how great things are. That was my hope this week. And of course, it did not happen at all. Those of you that I gave homework to last week, don't think I forgot. So those of you who actually did your homework that I gave you last week, Norris Sports, what's happening? Those of y'all who did your homework last week, I want you to put into the comments if you did do your homework. And if you did, then did you notice differences in yourself, your body, the way you looked, your function, any of that? Just let other people know if you did your homework. If you didn't do your homework, that's part of your problem. That's part of most of our problems because we don't like to do work. We would prefer to be told what to do and then blame someone or something else if things don't work out. So don't think I forgot. Y'all were supposed to take account of your water intake by ounces. You were supposed to make habit of looking at yourself both in the mirror, in the morning, at night, in the morning and at night. And you were supposed to take note of how much motion you included in your daily function. And I know lots of y'all. Okay, so living the best life. I'll give you a pass because you were out of town. So those people who heard me, they know they heard me, and they also are the ones that have to look in the mirror now and say, "Oh, I didn't do my homework. I didn't do what I was supposed to." And that is exactly, y'all, where we are. We are not, when we talk about being awakened, right? We're simply talking about being connected to our own logic in the brain and question everything that is a part of our life, right? Everything that is a part of our life. Those of us who are what we call sleep are going through life willy-nilly, not answering a question, not looking up, not paying attention to what is happening around you. And then you want to wonder why you're sick and you don't feel well, right? So that was the point of me giving the homework last week, was to slow you down enough for you to pay attention to yourself, because many of you are not paying attention to yourself. And when you don't pay attention to yourself, you don't become aware of what's happening out there either, right? So we're going to talk about a couple of things. I was going to talk about the blood this week, right? And I mean blood, blood, including women's cycles and detox, and not being awake to what many of you women in particular, men too, when it comes to the prostate, but women in particular are doing to yourself for convenience that is causing you over time your low quality of life and illness and disease. Okay. But I have to start here because I asked y'all this last week, and many of y'all were not aware of it last week. And so now I'm quite sure many of y'all aren't aware of what's been happening over the last 2 weeks when y'all weren't paying attention. So I asked last week, I asked how many people knew about the toxic spill in Ohio. I asked how many people knew about that. Not many of y'all knew about that at all, right? None of y'all knew about that. And that in itself is horrific. It's horrific because that says to me that the only place that you all may get your information is the mainstream news media, who controls the narrative or the story or the book or the movie that they're writing, because you don't ask questions outside of reading that book or watching that movie. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, right? Those of you that don't know, there was and I'm putting this for y'all who are not watching me, I'm putting this in air quotes when I say there was a train derailment carrying toxic vinyl chloride, right? In Ohio. There was a plume of black smoke that they claimed to burn off. So there are a couple things that I need y'all to really, 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 really listen to what I'm saying. There was a train derailment in Ohio of a train that was carrying toxic vinyl chloride, that when it, again in air quotes, crashed, the plume of black smoke in the atmosphere was so unbelievably black and toxic, and not one media outlet covered it. So there are a bunch of things wrong with what I just said. There was a train derailment. First of all, for those of you who do not know, there is a corporation by the name of Vanguard. And you can go Google Vanguard right now and Google how many 1%ers are investors in the company of Vanguard. And Vanguard owns most of the railways in this country. Okay? A corporation. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to leave that there for a second. But then those of you who are asleep with the mainstream news clearly don't know that it wasn't just Ohio. There were 13, listen to me, please, 13 so-called derailments, also owned by Vanguard, that crashed, and they were carrying toxic materials. 13. And last week, there was one in Canada, and nobody knows about that either. So for you to not know about that, right? In this firmament, in this ozone firmament air that we live in and share, it's not, I don't care if it happened just in Ohio. We are in the same firmament. We are under the same ozone. We share the same air. There are train derailments and toxic spills going on at this moment as we speak, and they are not accidents. If you ask any engineer or you ask any welder who builds those containers that carry toxic materials, they are created to survive impact without opening. So for you to say, oh, over the last 2 weeks, my goodness, there have been 13 train derailments, right? There's no coincidence in that. 13 train derailments, of which the tracks were owned by a corporation that has trains that all of a sudden, all of these toxic materials are inside of trains that all of a sudden aren't sturdy enough to keep their chemicals inside. Absolutely domestic terrorism by your government. And you know why they can do it? Because you're not paying attention. You're not asking a question. You're not looking up. You are not finding information in multiple places. You are not listening to people who are actually living it. You can Google a million of these videos of people in Ohio who are showing you what is happening to them while their fish are dying, their birds are dropping out of the sky, people can't breathe, people can't sleep, people are dropping dead. But because your news source, your movie source, your director of mass mainstream media that you're paying attention to isn't covering it, so for you, it's not true. But guess what? For you, it's going to be very true. Because if you're not paying attention, their air is not going to, that black plume in any of the states that they have these derailments, that air don't stay over that state. You do know that, right? It moves under the firmament. It is air carried by wind. So if their fish are dying, all our fish are dying. If they're not able to breathe, we're not able to breathe. But if we are not coming together as a freaking human species to open our brains and ask questions outside of the dictation of this demonic ass government, this is why they can do what they do, right? You know, this is why they can spray chemicals in the air all day, every day, because they've repeated to you, oh, it's not chemical, it's not chemical. And you don't answer, you don't ask one single solitary question. Oh, yeah. And let's not forget, we're talking water supply. You know where the Ohio River, the Ohio River supplies a lot of the water that we drink in this country. Okay? Even for the places that bottle water, because where do you think they get their water from to chemically process it and put it in a freaking bottle? But y'all are not asking a question. You would rather tell somebody who's actually living in Ohio and drinking toxic chemical water, all they have to do is stick a pebble in the river and smoke and fumes come up through the water. And I actually read there were some comments from people that would actually say, oh no, that's not from chemicals. That's what happens sometimes when you actually pour water into a glass or into a bottle. You guys, they can kill you faster when you're not prepared at all. When you're not prepared. Remember what I said to you when I said COVID was practice. And I said to you last week, do I think they're planning another pandemic? Hell yes. And you know how they're going to do it? Through your air. You know how they're going to do it? They're going to throw a bunch of toxic chemicals and burn them up into your firmament, which when they go up, they're heavy, right? You know where they got to go? Back down. And you know who lives where they go back down? We do. But if you are completely closed off and unaware, you're not even in a place to prepare your body to deal with what's out there. You can't, because your brain doesn't go past here. They're doing it and they've been doing it. It's now even in Canada, right? So if you think about what Canada used to represent for people in the US, right? It was a place where people would actually go when the US started to suck, which it does. And now they've got Canada too. There was a toxic spill in Canada a couple of days ago. But because many of you simply are tunnel focused and get your information from one place, not even people. I would prefer if you chose one place to get your information from. I would prefer you get it from people who actually live in the places that this is happening, as opposed to mainstream media. And all the while, your AI crazy ass president is funneling money through Ukraine and using your money to do it. And you're not even paying attention to that either, yet he can't send money to Ohio. He can't send money to Ohio because they don't want to. They're not covering it in the news because they don't want to. They are not covering it in the news because they want you to be the ones that suffer so that you can then go and run to big pharma like you want to and keep us down, because COVID didn't work. like they thought it was going to work. So now they're like, oh, let's try something else. The fact that they can actually cause 13 toxic trail derailments in the middle of the day and keep it hidden from the American people says a lot about us, y'all. It says a lot about us. And what it says about us is not at all good. It's not. And it's not funny. I laugh to keep from screaming. I have to laugh to keep from screaming. So when I talk about not being able or not trying to run after pandemic, after pandemic, after pandemic, it is never going to stop, y'all. So if you don't know how to keep your lymphs in functionality so that they are processing 24/7, 365 days a year, you are going to be the ones that suffer from what they're doing, because they are absolutely not keeping it a secret, right? Right. And then they're saying the railroad company is going to pay for the cleanup. Yeah, sure it is, right? The railroad company that's owned by the corporations that are not going, that listen. So so this is more homework for y'all. I want y'all, particularly those of y'all who haven't known about the toxic spills, to go and just Google some information about the multiple toxic spills that are going on right now, right? And go look on TikTok. As much as I freaking hate TikTok, but that's why they're trying to get you to not be able to use it, because you get all that information from actual people who are living it. I want you to go and I want you to read up on Vanguard. I want you to read up on Vanguard's association to these railways and these railroad companies, and you can count how many of these Vanguard actually owns. And absolutely, Erica, our silence means we're complicit, but we're silent because we don't know. We're silent because we don't wake up. We're silent because we don't separate from the toxic frequency that they keep pushing in our faces every single moment. My cousin Solo D, good Lord, it is so good to see you. We have got, listen, we are now at a place, okay? And people who don't believe certain things, they're like, Camille, I don't know where you get that information from. Our government wouldn't do that to us. Why? Do you know the history of how this corporation we call a company was created? You think they've changed their conscience since they created this space where they killed, raped, stole from people, the same thing that they're still doing right now? You think at some point since the creation of this country, their conscience has changed, or the top 1% has said, you know what? I think I want to start caring about the masses. I want to make sure that everybody here has what they need to be successful in this country. I want to do that. You think your government has done that? You think they've changed their conscience? You think they have? No, clearly they haven't, or we wouldn't have had COVID. But we are the ones, we are one of the only countries, right, who does not get it together enough to fight when we need to fight. You know why? Because the same media that you are allowing to control your life is controlling the divisiveness that causes us to not act as the human species, but different races and genders in different species. We're all freaking human. We all die from the same bad air. We all die from the same bad water. And you all must remember, the places where these toxic spills have been in some of the places that have the most self-sufficient, sustainable communities in this country. And Ohio was one of them, because Ohio was big Amish country, That was intentional for a reason, because at the same time that's happening, what else is happening? They've sold most of your freaking farmland to the devil himself, Bill Gates. And now they've also let devil Bill Gates buy ecosystems, which controls the processing of your water. And you tell me that you don't think this is actually intended. You actually tell me that you don't think this is intended, where every single dot connects to that story and that story only. There is no coincidence that there were 13 toxic spills in a matter of 2 weeks in this country. There's no coincidence. That's not a coincidence. You're trying to tell me that engineers that engineered 13 trains meant to carry highly toxic materials all of a sudden at the same time spilled and opened, right? Right? Absolutely, they're trying to destroy self-sustainability, because if we don't need them, what can they do? Nothing. Which is exactly why we need to be self-sufficient. And you know the main way that we become self-sufficient? Get off your meds and understand how to keep your body well. Period. You think the government just means your president, the Senate, Congress? No, kids. It is the biggest lobbyist in the world, Big Pharma. Okay? You want to know who controls your government and makes the laws that your government decides for you? Oh, yeah, the ones who can profit off you the most. So what we have to do in order to keep ourselves self-sustained is to keep ourselves self-sustained. That means use the brain that is in your head that controls your body so that you don't have to be a slave to them. Because if you are in a space where you are more comfortable taking prescribed narcotics from a government who could care less whether or not you have money, you're well, if you're more concerned and comfortable being on that regimen, they already got you. They already, the reptilians and shit. Yep, that's about right. So we have to get, when we say self-sustained absolutely means growing your own food, means understanding how to create your own clean water, which means understanding how to do all of these self-hacks that people think are so cute all across TikTok. Y'all better sit your asses down and watch every self-hack, how you can sustain yourself outside of going to a store and buying the things that are manufactured by the people who are trying to kill you. That's what self-sufficiency means. That's what self-sustainability means. That's why they went to Ohio first, because they know what the Amish are doing. The Amish are just trying to live, right? Just like us. But the more we are silent, we are complicit. And people are like, well, how did they do that? Because we ain't open our mouths. And I don't mean, listen, it starts by simply asking questions. It starts by understanding how your body functions. It starts by understanding that the system that we call our healthcare system is completely illogical. And listen, doctors, you know I love you. You know I absolutely love you. And I love your desire to want to help people. But for those people who do not know, doctors are controlled by the same government that is causing us to be sick. Rockefeller, who still ain't even here anymore, but his foundation supplies so much money to the government to create the laws that are supposed to rule your state of health, right? Your state of wellness. But every commercial that they show you, they even tell, yo, this is how sleep we are, y'all. In the commercial, they tell you that your immune system is going to be shut down. They tell you that death is sometimes a side effect of what you take. But sleep, the absolute proof of being sleep is that you take your ass to the pharmacy and you take that every single day. That right there, that is proof of being sleep. People always ask me, Camille, why doesn't my doctor know about the lymph system? Because the American Medical Association, that was created by Rockefeller intentionally to control what doctors can and cannot do, was created for doctors to prescribe meds and operate. There is no healing in what Rockefeller created to train the doctors that you go run and see. So I'm not saying that the doctors are bad. Doctors have a desire to help. However, what they were taught in school was created by a businessman who wanted to control what they did forever, and he did it. And he did it. And you know who's collateral damage? You are. We are. Collateral freaking damage from not asking questions. Half of y'all that are sick wouldn't even be sick if you simply ask a question or 2 or 3 or 17, but you don't, because the programming from that same mainstream media that has you by the cojones, that same mainstream media is the same mainstream media who uses propaganda to scare you into the fact that you may be sick. You know what was one of the most ridiculous things during COVID? I'm even embarrassed to say it because it sounds stupid to me when I have to repeat it. So many of us, and I have to include me, even though you know I didn't take any of that shit. So many of us, because we are a collective, y'all, and that's the other problem. The more they divide us, the less we are a collective. The less we are a collective, the weaker we get. So we have to open ourselves to being a human species and not races. But one of the craziest things during COVID that many of us allowed ourselves to repeat was, oh my God, if I didn't get the jab, I would have died or I would have been much sicker. Wait, but you got COVID after you got your shot. So what are you saying? So you're absolutely divide and conquer, and that's what they're doing, and they do it quite well. So you all actually gave another human being, because doctors are human beings, you do remember that, right? You gave another human being the power to forecast your life, and they have no idea what your life is, was, or is going to be. But you gave them the power to be your soothsayer. You gave them the power to be your psychic, and you actually let them control the way you thought. So, and I say that because that means if you believe that, you believed that in looking at you, a doctor was able to assess in his or her mind what your chances of having a serious reaction to that virus was going to be. So that meant if I had gone to a doctor and he looked at me or she looked at me and said, oh, looking at you, I think you have a 70% chance of being severely affected by that virus. So that's the first thing you had to do, right? You comfortable with that? You actually gave that person permission and the logic that they were right in that, right? And then you then gave them the power to say, oh, well, now that you got the jab, now you're down to 30%. How in the hell is any of that logical at all? Yeah, not one person regrets not getting it. Not me. And I tried to tell y'all in 2020, for those of y'all that have been with me that long, I told y'all in 2020, what did I say? That people were going to begin to drop dead from heart attacks, strokes, and aneurysms. And people are dropping dead from heart attacks, strokes, and aneurysms. Not because I'm a genius, because it didn't make sense. It was illogical. Every time they changed the story, which was every day, none of it connected in dots that created a straight line. And all you had to do was simply ask questions. That's it. Even if you don't verbalize it to another person, ask yourself, LymphWorks, good to see you. Ask yourself those questions. If you don't feel comfortable verbalizing it to a doctor because you're scared, then ask yourself talk to yourself and answer yourself. Does this make sense for me? Does it make sense that this person knows my chances of getting this virus and being affected adversely from it? And if they do, how do they know? They don't. And many people would still be here right now if they actually asked a freaking question. And people aren't asking questions. The fact that I can post airplanes spraying chemicals into your air that you are going to breathe, and having people actually see them while they're doing it and then still say, I don't think that's what it is insane to me. Because if they have controlled, everybody used to say, Camille, they can't control the brain. What are you talking about? The brain is frequency. So is TV. So is the internet. And many of y'all stick AirPods in your ears on either side of your brain with high intensity frequency and EMF. And then you expect what? That your brain is going to continue to function. That is control. When you question what your eyes are actually looking at, because you have been controlled by frequency that's different than what you see, that is called brain control, which is why they call it telepathy, brain, television through your eyes, which controls the brain, television programming. God, they don't even keep it secret, and y'all still can't see it. You still can't see it because the programming and the fear has made you lose connection to your brain, right? And so when I describe what zombies are, that's what zombies are. I mean, okay, let's go here. During the pandemic, the CDC added an entire section on their website about a zombie apocalypse and how to deal with zombies. And do you know how many of y'all said, oh, that's a joke? You are the zombie. You are the zombie because what you're watching, what you're looking at, you don't even believe because the programming has programmed you to think otherwise. And I need y'all to get out of that. I need you simply, the brain's a muscle. If you just use it sometimes, like, doubt and asking questions, like when you are asking questions, that works your brain, right? But if you're just constantly getting shit dumped on top of it and on top of it and on top of it, your brain is atrophying and you cannot fire synapses correctly enough to keep your body well. Yeah. So when people say, Camille, what do I do to detox? You can't do a detox. You have to live a detox. And after these 2 weeks of these intentional train derailments and toxic spills, you better not hope that you can do a detox. Every single moment of your life has to be focused on keeping your lymph water moving. Because for those of you all that don't know, everything you eat, every hormone, your blood, every muscle, tissue, organ in your body, every cell requires lymphatic function. The body was created perfectly outside of human comprehension, which means humans can never heal a body. The body has to heal itself. And the body has a system to do that called the lymph system. So I'm going to make this general statement about the lymphs. If your lymph water is flowing, then it is automatically pulling toxins out of the veins and the capillaries, the blood, the tissues everywhere, and flowing it through the lymph channels and out. It does that because it can't do anything else until it can't. The lymph system was put there to free flow, just like the ocean was put on this planet to balance out the toxic air and the damage that humans are doing to it. And just like the ocean, in order for that system, meaning atmospheric nature, in order for that system to balance, there has to be a movement of the ocean and the sea. It is the same thing in the lymph system. The ocean is salt water. Our lymph system is salt water. The ocean has to move. We have to move. It is the same thing. When the lymph system, when our salt water gets backed up, right? What does the body start to do? It heats up. When the ocean and the water in the ocean isn't moving because we put too much human shit in it like we're doing, what is happening to the earth? It is heating up. We are nature. We have to behave in nature like we have to behave with our bodies. So what we are doing to the oceans is stopping the creation of oxygen that is balancing the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is burning. It is the same exact thing that is happening in our bodies. And it's right there. All you got to do is look, right? Many of y'all who have diagnoses, all you have to do is go Google a lymphatic chart, and I guarantee you'll be able to pinpoint the lymph nodes that are dumping back into your body, causing you pain and other symptoms. But again, we don't want to do the work. But Jesus, you'd rather do the work taking 16 narcotics every morning that are going to shut down every one of your organs and stagnate the only system that's meant to work. You would rather do that than just look at a chart, than to just connect the brain. That's why so many of us are sick. Y'all are so focused. You're so removed from what's easy, right? The easiest thing in the world is to ask a question and to think. It's super difficult to be programmed into something that doesn't make sense to your brain. And when your brain is not firing correctly, there is chaos or illness in your body. So like the ocean was put on the planet to keep the planet balanced, right? Our lymph system was put into our body to keep our bodies balanced. When the lymph system is balanced, meaning there are enough minerals in it to keep the water flowing, the automatic function of the lymphs works via minerals, okay? Which is why we were created to eat a raw diet. Raw diets are high in minerals. So when you eat minerals, you are keeping your lymph water moving. And here's a secret, kids. You don't breathe without lymph water. Oxygen doesn't just flow in the body. Oxygen is carried into the body through the cells, through the lymph water. So if the lymph water isn't moving correctly, then sufficient oxygen isn't moving correctly to your cells, through your blood, through your organs, into your tissues, none of that. And so many of us are now on this trail to death by adding toxic narcotic or even the toxic chemicals they just sprayed. I guess so many of us, not enough of us were taking it internally. They're just going to spray it in the air now. And so if the lymphs are greater in function than any human process, anything that a human could think of is never, ever, 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 ever going to be more powerful than the automatic function of the lymphatic system, which is why we as humans can't figure out how it works, and we can't duplicate it. We can't replicate it because we have no idea what is happening on the inside. When doctors go to med school, they practice on cadavers. They practice on dead people until they graduate, and then they practice on you, right? But every time we traumatize this body from the outside, meaning we cut it, we cut things off, we take things out, you have now upset the original function of the body that we as humans can never understand, because everything is sealed on the inside. There is no way that we can ever assess the natural function of the human body unless we're inside of it. Looking from the outside in with technology and frequency changes the natural function. So unless you're a little microorganism with a little camera that is traveling in that system, and even that wouldn't work because you'd be a foreign entity and the body would change its function in order to get your ass out, right? I love you. Shan Marie said, you saved my life. I love it. Wonderful. I didn't save your life though. Your lymph system saved your life. I just reset it. I helped it. That's all. So we need to get to that, right? We need to get to a point to understand that true healing never comes from another human, ever. It can't. That's an impossibility because humans couldn't create us in the first place. So if we can't create us, we can't understand how to fix us. Yeah. So stop putting your faith right there. I'm not Kimberly Choco Drop. Late is never a problem. Welcome when you come. We cannot assess the body. We simply need to know its logic and how to read it. And I want to promise y'all something. Ask even Shan Marie. Shan Marie just said, I saved her life, right? Ask Shan Marie, or Shan, you could put in the comments how many doctors, hospitals, and how many years you were suffering with what you were suffering with. And she has been to the Mayo Clinic. She's been to all types of the top docs. But docs only know what they were taught. And what they were taught is not healing, because humans can't heal humans. We heal internally from the inside. So I want to promise you this. I want to promise you this. And you can ask any of either my affiliates, my clients that are on this call right now. So Shan's been going through this for 10 years, right? And I've been seeing her less than a year, right? But she was going through it 10 years. And they were trying to take out her lungs and change her lungs and all that stuff. We can't, right? The body was created so perfectly. It was meant to stay in ease. It was meant to stay balanced and easy. Dis-ease is a malfunction in the system that was meant to create the ease. So in order to get rid of disease, we have to put the system that was given to us for ease back in its natural space. And so LFD uses that water. We are electric water. So that same electricity that I use in these LFD wands simply resets the system back to its state of ease. That's all. That is it. We as humans have made healthcare a business. Yo, some of y'all pay so much money to an insurance company for an insurance company to tell you that they're not going to cover anything that's going to make you feel better. Some of y'all are losing your shirts for what you pay the insurance company. It is a business. It is a joke, and there is no healing in any of it. And the lymph system that was given to us to keep our bodies at ease, right? At ease, that exact system is controlled by the sinuses in the head, period. It's a cycle. The lymphs are water. The lymphs carry oxygen into the body, to the blood, the heart, the vessels. So many people are so comfortable saying they have heart problems. No, you don't. The heart doesn't breathe, and the heart is connected to everything on top of it. So you never have a heart problem. You never have a kidney problem. You never have anything problem that comes below the head. If the head is the top part of this, right? How do you compartmentalize and separate organs and problems and tissues and cells that are all inside of a body that are controlled by one thing, and that is the head? Everything that you eat, everything that you listen to, everything that you watch, everything that you feed into the brain is what controls the body. So why in the hell are you trying to fix the body when the body is controlled by the head? Because propaganda has taught you that it can't be that easy. Absolutely, it is that easy. Absolutely, it is that easy. It was created to be that easy. It's humans that F that up. And we keep running back to humans to try to fix something humans couldn't make in the first place. And I give people homework because I want you all to see it. Listen, I have a client who had a wound about this big on his leg. Big, nasty wound, right? Nasty, just nasty wound. He had been to Kaiser a million times, to their so-called wound care center, right? Wound care, and didn't do anything except just change the bandages every day. We are made of mineral salt water. I had him put a salt rock on his wound for 3 minutes, and in 3 minutes, the wound dried up. And so when I say to y'all, go and do this homework, I'm saying it to you because I want you to experience the benefit. When things are beneficial for the body, they work immediately. I'm not saying that your diagnosed diabetes is going to go away immediately. What I'm saying is the symptoms of those issues are going to start to change immediately, because that's the way the body was created. The fact that so many of y'all think that you have to hurt to get better should embarrass you. You should be embarrassed to even say something like that, because that's never the way we were created. That's what humans said. And by the way, this whole healthcare system that we have, our current healthcare system that Rockefeller created, y'all, you know that system is only like 200 years old, right? Yet humans have been on this planet for millennia. So you all are asking infants in their infancy knowledge of what is happening with the body. You are trusting your creation with these people. So I am not speaking against doctors. I never will. Will I go to a doctor to assess how I'm feeling? Absolutely not, ever. If I cut off a limb, am I going to go to the hospital and have them sew it back on? Sure I am. But do I have an expectation that they're going to fix me post that? Absolutely not. Who is the one person that is always around, inside you, can hear you? Who is that person? That person is you, right? But you have been programmed outside of your own power to make yourself better by the fear that a human puts into you when they have no knowledge of otherwise. None. And so many people say, Camille, why doesn't my doctor know about the lymphs? Because they were intentionally not taught. The lymphs heal. That's not what they were meant. They were meant to treat, right? What do they call it? The practice of medicine. So outside of the dead people they practice on before they graduate, then they get out of school, and then they practice on you. And they practice and they practice. But you know what never practices, because it doesn't have to? The lymphs never have to practice. They're never wrong, ever. The lymphs are never wrong. And what I mean by that is eczema, acne, psoriasis, hyperpigmentation, dry skin. Every single one of those is a direct pointing of the lymph system stagnation where it has evidenced on the skin. Because if you're not connected enough to feel it while it's happening on the inside, or to assess your own symptoms, the body, if the body's lymphs can't pull it through the lymph vessels and out, it's going to push it through the skin so that it can show you that there is a problem. Remember that mucus lines underneath the dermis. We have a layer of mucus all throughout our bodies. When that mucus thickens because the molecules that are going through the lymph water underneath are too big, reducing the amount of oxygen, the mucus thickens, causing stagnation, causing the lymph node trash cans to dump back into the body, which is what they call cancer, instead of taking it out through the lymph vessels and out in the excretory pathways that the body uses. It is very easy to stay well. It is hard as shit to be sick. And so many of you have this, like, you're tied to your meds, you're tied to your insulin, you're tied to all of this, and none of it's helping you. None of it. And I could speak directly to it, because I'm the person that y'all come to see when 20, 30, 40 years of going to see doctors haven't done anything except made you sick. And the only thing that I do and my affiliates do is we simply reset that one system in your body that is meant to keep you at ease. So we can talk this all day, because that is our lives. That's what we live. We live fixing, helping the body heal itself. That's all we do. That is all we do. Most people go to sleep when we do it, and they feel amazing when we leave. And they don't understand why. Because that's how we're supposed to feel, yet we've been programmed out of that knowledge. And when you're programmed out of that knowledge, it is very easy for them to make you slaves to them, because that's what they're doing. I mean, I have some clients who used to talk about they couldn't go on vacation because they didn't want to take their CPAP machine. First of all, a CPAP machine makes so many people worse because a CPAP machine blows water into a system of water that is already stagnant. And then they wonder why they never get off of it. It's the same thing. Oh, that's awesome, Shan. You're breathing. Excellent. It's the same thing. Y'all, we have to get back to what I call primitive, right? You know, Rockefeller created what we call formal education, or what I call indoctrination, right? I'm so glad I don't have kids, because if I did, they certainly wouldn't be in school. So when we are indoctrinated, we are given information, we are repeated information that is absolutely many times not true at all. We're indoctrinated with information that the people who created the indoctrination want us to know. And if you don't stop and ask questions or try to make things meet in a straight line and connect in a straight line, you have become an indoctrinated slave zombie. That's my term, right? Indoctrinated slave zombie. We could be indoctrinated to death. And many people who aren't here anymore because they were indoctrinated to death. They were indoctrinated to the point that they disconnected from the brain. And when you are disconnected from logic, it makes you a zombie. All of us have seen a zombie movie, right? And what do zombies? They can't think. They just follow whatever programming signal they're meant to follow. They don't have any connection to this. You cannot reason with a zombie. That's why you got to shoot them in the head. You cannot reason with them. That's why you got to cut off their heads. You listen, it is for us. My desire for all of us is to simply turn the switch. So one of the things that I tell my affiliates when we work is, when you have an electrical system, like in your house, right? You have an electrical system and you have an electrical box. If something happens and there is a short circuit big enough to cut off the electricity in your house, what do you do to fix the electricity? You go back and flip the reset switch in the fuse box, right? That's what LFD is. When your lymph system, which is water that surrounds the electrical synapses in the body, when your electrical system short circuits, unless you use something that resets that fuse box, that short circuit creates a tsunami in your body. So a tsunami in the ocean can take out a city in a millisecond, right? A tsunami in your body can take out body function in a second. But if that tsunami is not that big, it will take longer for you to feel the effects of it, unless you are constantly paying attention to it. And the thing about detoxing is the lymph system is detox. You get that? So when I tell people that they can't do a detox, you can't. People are like, yeah, I want to do a 30, 60, or 90-day detox. And so what? The only thing that you may detox in that 90 days is what you've eaten in the last month. Because don't forget, you're breathing chemicals in the air, you're drinking fluoride in the water. And if you're not drinking fluoride in the water, you're showering in it. And many of us watch crap TV, right? Or you watch the news. All of these things are creating stagnation in the water system in your lymphs. So you cannot do a detox. You have to live a detox. And living a detox means you have to concentrate on keeping the lymph water moving, because like the ocean has the moon to control the wind, to control the ocean. We have breath, right? That we can use to control the motion of the water. We have exercise that we can use to control the motion of the water. We have minerals that we can use to control the motion of the water. Either what we give to the body is either going to benefit or it's going to harm us. There is no in between, y'all. It's going to benefit us or it's going to harm us. And it's either going to harm us really quick or it's going to take some time based on what that harm is. So you have got to use everything that benefits your water, You cannot do a detox. You have to live a detox. If your water is moving, It is an automatic detox. So they call certain things autoimmune disorders. And it is an autoimmune, but that's where their knowledge stops. They just call it autoimmune. Well, what is happening is the lymphs are no longer automatically flowing and pulling toxins from the body. They're not doing that anymore, right? And that causes your body's autoimmunity to not be there. There is no immunity in your body without the function of the lymphs. They call the immune system all of the detox organs, right? Kidneys, pancreas, liver, colon. They call that the immune system. But there is no immunity for any of those organs without the flow of the lymphs, because the lymph system is the system that detoxes the cells in those organs. So without the flow of your lymph system, your body's not breathing enough. Your tissues aren't getting enough oxygen. Your cells aren't breathing and they can't turn over, or the lymph nodes are dumping back into the cells in the tissues and the cells are dividing with that toxicity. So when I say you have to live a detox, you have to live a detox. And speaking of that, I'm going to do a little thing about blood, because I need y'all, since we're talking about detox, to understand this. Your blood has lymph water through it. That's why it flows, right? Because when there's a stagnation in that flow, there is a reduction of oxygen in that blood, and they call that either a blood clot or high cholesterol, or the blood has to beat faster, which they call high blood pressure. But it is all a result of the lymph water not flowing in its automation in the body. So when we talk about detox, what are the 6 ways that the body gets rid of toxicity? Breathing out. Your body breathes out its toxin, which is why we need trees, because trees absorb the CO2 toxin that is coming out of our mouths when we breathe out. Which is why those of you who are still wearing masks are going to be sick as shit, because you wear a mask all day and you constantly breathe in your own toxin. You are literally covering one of the major avenues that your body uses to get rid of this vapor. Remember, it's lymph. So the lymph pulls in the water. We breathe it out in a vapor. We are breathing out our own fecal matter, our own toxicity. We must breathe out. So you putting a mask on top of that is absolutely and utterly disgusting, and it is illogical, yet you all did it because they told you to. They told you to, and they knew what having people wear masks for 2 years was going to do. It was going to shut your lymphatic immunity down to nothing, because while your body is trying to push it out, you keep breathing it back in. That is destroying your lymphatic function. So first way is breathing out. Second way is what? Sweat, right? Some of y'all think it's cute that you don't sweat. Are you shitting me? You better hope that you sweat. And even hyperhidrosis, where you're sweating too much, is an indicator that there is no balance. Remember, the lymphs are all about balance. If the lymphs are water and they surround electrical energy, the balance of that has got to be super specific. But what's easy for us is that if you're feeding your body what it needs for the water to move, you don't have to worry about any of that, right? You absolutely have live plants, have live anything, have live anything. We are living, right? So we have breathing and we have sweat, right? Those of y'all who are following us on the streaming Chit Chat Radio, we're about to come off, as always, at 8:30 on Wednesdays. We'll see y'all next week, but you got to jump on IG so that we can finish this little bit. I will see y'all next